Yeah, good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. For those of you that have written me privately saying, Maazi, we haven't heard from you. And it's very simple. You haven't heard from me for a couple of days because we are all trying to make sense of the senselessness that has happened in the nation in the last couple of days. It's 10 days today that people were shot um, in Lekki, and there was denial. So hence the title of this meeting this evening, or rather this conversation this evening, which I would allow you to join me at some point with what you think. At some point, I would want to take your call, to understand what you actually think. So when we get to that point, for those of you who may want to ring, you could kindly ring this number on the screen. Okay, so let's kickstart here. Now, you are all aware how everything started. And I've said this over and over and over again, and I'll repeat the same this night that we had a chance. This is a nation where people were not governed right, and we had a chance to make things something work. And for the government that are looking for people who really supported this protest, I think all of us did, because it would have been cowardice not to support, because the demands were clear. I've said it. The Sars, the way they were killing innocent youth, that they look at they look at you, you look fresh, then it becomes a crime. They look at you, you have an iPhone, then it becomes a crime. They look at you, you are probably using your mother and your father's car, then it becomes a crime as well. But that's not the bane of discussion this evening. The bane of discussion this evening will be centered around the hanky panky nature of things happening. I have been availed of a document that the government has produced, which I found actually, very distasteful. This document clearly shows that government is basically putting together people they consider being the brain behind this. Those they call social media influencers that influence this. Now, at the backdrop of that is what we now have today as the those in the national, well, those in the state assemblies, basically making silly comments that you will never believe that these people would ever make. And again, these are not old people; these are younger people. Now, what I will do this evening, this converse, I'll basically pick only two of them, and that happened in Lagos State. It happened in Lagos State, and I found it also intriguing that it's actually in Lagos State. Now, before I get into the analysis this evening, one thing I want to do is basically to ask, to tell us if you ever took part in this protest, not in the destruction, and someone is trying to make you feel sad. Please do not despair and do not feel sad, because you have done your fundamental duty to register your anger. Now, I said it, the protest got out of hand because of the government involvement. If the government was never involved in this protest by trying to suppress it, by trying to do all manner of evil, this protest would never have gotten out of hand. If the government did not send soldiers to Lekki, if the government did not, or if the soldiers did not open fire in Lekki, this protest would never have gotten out of hand. It's that simple. We saw videos of unmarked cars meant for state security services, how they used it to move thugs and point them to where they can go in and destroy. And we saw how they destroyed people's cars. People who came out to protest, the cars that they parked were destroyed. This is unacceptable. Now, the question is, yes, we know that at some point, you know, ungodly characters took over. But let us actually bring something very clear here. Did the people have the right to protest? Yes. Did government listen to them enough at the beginning? No, the government didn't take them serious actually, because initially they were thinking, oh, maybe after a couple of days or whatever, people would, go back to their bedrooms, and as usual, they thought, after all, they called the Nigerian youths, they called them lazy. But for the first time, Nigerian youth have been able to show them that they are actually not a lazy bunch, as they might want them, or as they might want to think that they are. Nigerian youth have actually shown that they are a very resilient bunch of people, right? So, having said that, let us at this point get back to, what I personally would now call the tragedy of this. And the tragedy is, in all these things happening, and the tragedy is when I saw the palliative warehouses opened, I asked myself, how come, this level of wickedness exists? That people would actually keep this level of palliatives not shared, to the point that even one of them argued, oh, I wanted to share this palliative, but I wanted to do it on my birthday. Now, what were the palliative meant for? These were meant for indigent citizens of the country, people who could not, based on the shock of the COVID, who could not afford to eat, who could not afford to give anything to their children. And someone whom did not purchase any of this palliative with his money or with her money is just keeping it in stock for the birthday party, so that he rolls it out at his own or her own contribution to the society. These were gifts given for people to share. I mean, you think about it, it makes you want to go gaga. I tell you, because that's what it is. Someone is keeping something, and people were going hungry. You couldn't even share them at that point. And you ask yourself, people, what's happening? Honestly, when I listen to some conversation, I'm like, how did we even get to the point? How did we even get to this point where someone will keep something meant for the public locked up in a warehouse and, oh, ask people, oh, you need to wait until it's my birthday. When it's my birthday, then you can come in and have it. Now, what we are not saying now is how many people actually got, or rather, how many people actually died in their waiting period. We don't have the statistics. Yes, I condemn the act of looting. I mean, there was nothing it wasn't justifiable for you to have burnt all the police stations you burned. Honestly, that's my view. I mean, I looked at the Orile police station was burnt, this burnt, the other one burnt in Anambra State, in River State. Come on, people, those were the criminal elements. These were not those who were protesting for ENDSars. These were pure criminal elements. We saw in Taraba State how custom office was, basically butchered and buchanized, and actually, all the windows taken. The one that actually broke my heart is the shopping mall in Lagos and Tinapa. If you ever been to Calabar and you saw and you knew what Tinapa stood for, and there is part of it where they have built for Nollywood, where they go in and they shoot movies there, and these things were raised down. I mean, at that point, I said to myself, people, no, this is not it. No, this is not it. This is not it. You know how much it's going to cost to repair the damages that was done? Again, I blame the government, because we wouldn't have seen that level of carnage if the government if the government did not try to use their own, usual military Gestapo, Gestapo style to stop the protest that was peaceful. Protests that were, protesters that when you look at it, I mean, it boggles the mind. In Lagos State, for instance, if you look at the Lekki axis, these guys come out in the morning, they protest, they have their trash, they have people that will sweep it. If you lose your wallet, you go somewhere and you pick it up. They provide food, they provide drink, and they were demanding their 5 points. That was very clear. But to the point that all these things were happening, the government didn't like it because everyone you wanted to give a dog a bad name to hang it. Oh yeah, these people you wanted to give it. Of course, yes, I say it. You wanted to give a dog a bad name to hang it. That's in my worldview. That's what just happened because we saw a test run in Abuja, right? Now that was Abuja and in Lagos. Why were no properties destroyed until the government went in 10 days ago, Tuesday, 20th of October, to shoot unarmed protesters? That was what broke the camel's back. Sorry, government, but there is no other way to say it. This is the simple truth. You caused the mayhem. I believe, honestly, if you are being sincere, government, I believe if you are being sincere, you need to basically speak to yourself. You need to basically go back and say, where did we get this wrong? And the worst of it all is when I heard the governor of Lagos State denying that he never sent soldiers. Well, rather, he didn't even say he never sent soldiers. He fenced ignorance of those involved. That was his first point of call. He fenced ignorance. He said he acted and he said we didn't know, but he believed. Quote here. I mean, I quote him. He said he believed those could be soldiers. He gave a press statement, a press conference on the 21st, and he was saying that no one died, and he maintained that. But suddenly, when he was granting an interview to CNN, suddenly the same man said, "Oh yes, we lost 2 people. Now we are making progress." Some people asked me when I tweeted it, how is that progress? We're making progress because you're going from a point of denial that you never deployed the military. You're going from a point of denial that no one lost their life. You're going from a point of denial that there was no blood on the floor of Lekki Toll Plaza. Now, to a point where you now say, okay, I asked the military to come. We lost 2 people. Now, does it matter if you lost 100 people or if you lost 2 people? What matters is who gave the order to open fire on unarmed protesters sitting down singing their national anthem. You are the one that said curfew was going to start from 9 o'clock. Whereas the shooting started about a couple of minutes after 6 o'clock. So, you broke your own law, you brought the military, and you're denying it. Mr. Governor, that isn't cool. Because when we look at this, and that's, when people say they don't trust the government, because there is no contract. Governance is about social contract. That governance is that the people, the populace, must be able to trust you as their governor. That's why they have ceded their right as citizens to you to make just such decisions on their behalf. But having ceded their right to you, you have failed entirely. Entirely. I say it and I repeat it, you have failed in your duties. You see, the thing is, it's just that sometimes Nigeria is just an awkward place. If we have a place that people think, what we should be calling now is for the resignation of whoever was involved in that Lekki shooting. There is no two ways about it. Whoever was involved should resign. pronto, basta, no keine Diskussion. If you were to be the Germans, they would say no discussion. But here we are, the same person who sent in the army, the same person who denied that the army was sent, the same person now acknowledged that, okay, I sent the army, no, I asked the army to come in. Oh, 2 people died. It's now saying, oh, it's not more than 2 people. Then if you have other people saying, we saw 15 dead bodies, we saw a number of other dead bodies, all you're saying, oh, you now come forward. Come forward to do what? Come forward so that you pay them the 5 millions that's been making rounds, right? Come forward that I had a program on Sunday and I had a couple of people who had already agreed to come to this program. These were participants and victims. And the moment I published it, that this Zoom meeting was to take place, 4 of them dropped. I only had 2 people who were able to turn up because they said they don't care even if they were killed. Now, what manner of government is that would always want to checkmate the citizens and scare the citizens that the citizens cannot even speak? On this channel, you know how I detest fake news. I can only deal with verifiable news. However, even in that dealing with verifiable news, there are things you cannot manipulate. You know, when something is not planned, when something is spontaneous, if you're speaking to your friend and you're doing a live video, a live feed, everyone is watching from all over the world. And people out of the gunshot, because of the gunshot, they were now started recording. And suddenly you will say, oh, this we are manipulated. For Christ's sake, you cannot manipulate a video that was just being shown, streamed live on a mobile phone, not planned. I understand now that I speak to you, this video is streamed. If there are things I want to manipulate, it must be organized, it must be done, but not on a cellular phone. So, but for the government to now tell us, oh, these were manipulated, I mean, for Christ's sake, government, I don't know if you guys think your citizens are a bunch of idiots. Probably that's what you take us all to be. Because your argument and line of argument is actually insulting to the sensibilities of the Nigerian populace. You're not making sense. These are things everyone saw, and suddenly the government is trying to turn the table. I don't know if you people think this is one kind of a game or something like that. Now, there are things that happened even in this protest that honestly broke my heart. That I, at some point, I asked myself, how did we get here? We also, when policemen were attacked, their life lost. I saw a video that broke me. I don't want to think about it. I saw a video that broke me. Where I don't know how to say this. Fellow human being was fellow human beings were burnt. And some of our brothers turned to cannibals. I couldn't honestly, I couldn't believe what I just watched. And I thought to myself, people, brothers and sisters, how did we get to this point? How? I understand we're angry. I understand, the government has been so useless. Not fit for purpose. But again, the feminist movement that was behind this have shown what governance is all about. The little millions that people were able to contribute, they have shown accountability, shown what they can do with this money. In 12 days, they've done what people have been asking you to do in 4 years. Transparency. Today we have 11 presidential jets. The same people that promised you, oh, we are going to bring you change. When we bring you change, we will sell presidential jets. and plunged the money into a national carrier. There were the same people that went to Farnborough in England and launched your Nigerian Air on PowerPoint. And the same Nigerian Air crashed on PowerPoint and went bust in flames. Same people are now telling you, today I read in the news that by 2023 you have national carrier. I laughed. And someone asked me, Maazi, why are you laughing? I say, honestly, you guys are a bunch of jokers. If you couldn't even fix probably the Enugu International Airport properly, then you are talking about giving people a national carrier. For Christ's sake, just give support to people like APIS or ARIC or whoever. Let them do what they do best. The government has no business there because you have shown incompetence. Today, we also saw in the news that Nigerian refineries has lost trillions on turnaround maintenance. So how long will this madness continue? Yet, every single time, sell the damn thing, you can't sell it. You want to keep it, you want to hold it, because our brains are still stuck in reverse gears of 1983, 84, 85. That's where we are stuck. And people do not know that the world has moved on. We need to move. And I keep using it. I must say it again. It beats me silly that a generation that can barely use email or WhatsApp will be dictating to a generation of Siri. Hey, Siri, how is the weather today? Siri will talk. Can you see the disparity? Yet this is a generation that anytime you ask them, okay, everything is going to be electronic now. You're going to be using Outlook. If you cannot, someone, do an application online, push it, approve it, put workflows and approval processes in place. No, they don't want. They want, he hasn't left my table. They brought this paper for me. If you come in, you see heaps of files. And they want to pretend that they are working, blah, blah, blah. Turn those things to electronic. We'll see. Because in a day, you see the workflow. The workflow is very simple. In one day, you get 20 emails. You get 200 emails. In my workplace, there are days, if I take a holiday for 1 week and I come back, for Christ me, sometimes I have like over 500 emails. You need to work them through and you need to treat every single email. Some of these emails, some of these things run on, as all of you know, on Oracle, on Salesforce, on CRMs. These are platforms used for. Why can't we do open governance? Why is it that today no one knows how much the senators are earning? No one actually knows how much a local government earns and a local government chairman earns. These things are not transparent. Ask them questions to become an enemy of the state, and this is what the ENDSars protest is. Because I would never use that. I would never say was, because it is ongoing. The only thing is that the ground for the ENDSars protests has shifted. For normality and for normalcy to return within the society, the ground has been shifted to the diaspora. Let the diaspora sustain the momentum. Let us do a countdown for the government and tell them that these were the things you promised 5 on 5. Now you have 90 days maximum to implement all 5. There are ones we know you can do within 2 weeks, 30 days. Yes, those must be done. Now, this countdown is what is going to say by January, if these things are not done, please expect the people to hit the street. But that protest must be sustained in the diaspora, at least every weekend. Take it city by city, it doesn't matter. The world must know that these things happened in Lekki, because honestly, whatever that's happened breaks the heart. And when I now want to come down to Lagos State, and I look at this former actor, what's the called name again? Desmond Elliot. And I watched this, yesterday I watched him. At some point, I asked myself, did I just listen to him, or what did I just, what just happened now? I don't know. And he Listen, let me play him. Let me play him. I mean, because I couldn't explain it more, but let me play him, and I would be pausing and I do the explanation bit by bit.
Mr. Speaker, we need to address certain things.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Mr. Speaker, we need to address certain things. The Nigerian youth, the social media, the social influencers, all of these are making the narrative that we are seeing today.
Now, to start with, you see, look at the body language first, because the body language matters. Now, the body language of the arrogance is now pointing. See, thank God for instant media, that these things can be streamed. These things, you can record them while they're ongoing. It's not like, afterwards you can go and delete that. Look at the demo. Look at the body language. It's basically telling you that the social influencers, these are the ones behind this, and these are the ones causing trouble. Yet, when this man wants to go for an election, he would want to get back to those social media influencers. It's been clear that online that this man actually won an election by 150, is it 153, 158,000. Therefore, anyone within his constituency who doesn't want him to return is very simple. Just go get your PVC, wait for him the next time, hammer him. That's very simple. Let's play back and see what he has to say.
Except we are joking with ourselves. Social media, yes, though good, has its negative impact. Let me first thank you for condemning the wanton killings and carnage that happened.
I mean, on this note, I would agree with you. I join my voice to say I condemn the wanton killing. It wasn't necessary. And at the same time, like the same way I have condemned the army invasion of Lekki toll gates, I condemn the killing that, happened. It wasn't necessary. And I say, may the souls of every single person that died in this liberation struggle on both sides rest in peace. Amen. So let's continue.
At Lekki, when I went through the comments, I could not believe it, Mr. Speaker. The curses, the abuses from children. And I ask myself, is this Nigeria? What is going on? Children cursing, people having the effrontery to enter an Oba's palace, hold the staff of office. Culture is gone, Mr.
You see, you see the thing. He said children having the infantry to enter an Oba's palace. When these children are not trained, when these children are not learned, there is nothing they know. They only see an Oba driving with entourage coming out. The Oba means nothing to them. They actually see the Oba as an oppressor. That doesn't mean for one second that I justify the invasion of, as a traditionalist, as someone who believes in the tradition, institution, I do not for one second condone such manner of invasion in the Oba palace, right? To the point that the staff of office was stolen. But having said that, I must also not fail to, put the blame where the blame is squarely. The blame is on the government, because the government over the years, the government that have scrapped history, the government that has not bothered to train the younger ones. So the Oba Palace to some point becomes, they no longer see it as anything. But imagine for one second, if these children from the moment they entered primary nursery school, they were taught about the sacredness of the Oba and the Oba's palace, and they were taught about the things within the Oba palace and how Oba makes money, on how Oba disposes money, and if the Oba also saw the people not as subject, but as fellow community members, not as subject, because that's the thing, that's the mistake we make. Somebody climbs at the high horse and start looking down on people. So, it's not only one thing. This is a convolution of many things that jams together to get to a point where you have the scenario that you just basically described now, because the people, the children, are not taught what those traditional institutions meant. The money that is meant for their teaching, for their schools, is being, commingled by someone within the government. So again, this is just the beginning. I think this is just a warning shot for the government. If the government does not start now to put remedial actions in place, what is going to happen in the next 5, 10, 15 years is going to be a tea party. What happened now is going to be like a child's play. It's going to be a child's play. The government has whatever it takes to start genuinely begin to address these societal malice. The society, the gap is so much and it's enormous. But let's continue, please.
In the next 5 years, there will be no Nigeria if we don't start now. The youth is not only those who do the peaceful protest, those who have looted, who have destroyed lives, they are youths as well.
You see, exactly what I said before. Those who, those many of us, those we support, those we say, yes, we've done very well, we've been very peaceful, and those as well who have not done well. Honestly, those who have gone to the point of looting, causing mayhem, destroying things, they are still youths. But the question is, I think there was a video I watched within the week that actually showed, and a man jogging, someone sent it to me, a man jogging and started analyzing. I think I'll find that video actually to get to the analysis. That video is going to help us to see where we are going to move in next. What next? Right? I'll get that video. Let him finish.
Mr. Speaker, pregnant women went into malls, picked things and went away. When shall we change this narrative? I put it to all the celebrities out there, all the motivational speakers. This is the only country we have. The wealthy will go. When anything happens, what is our common saying? We die here. Please, celebrities, please, social media influencers, stop the hatred already. You have a means constitutionally to change government. It's called your
It's called your PVC. Don't worry. You basically told people that they have PVC and this PVC will be used. Now, for some of you who probably haven't noticed on my right hand here, the right lower corner of my screen, which is this here, you see that picture? I was told this is a bridge. The man that you just heard now spoke. I was told this is a bridge he did for his own constituency. So you can be the judge. You see what we are up against. You can be the judge. This is a bridge I was told that he built. Now tell me how this bridge would, if this bridge makes any sense to you. How would this make you feel as a human being when you see something like this? And you ask yourself. Now, he said it that, people would obviously get their PVC, and their PVC, they can use the PVC to change the government. And I agree with him, 1,000,000%, I agree with him in total. But let's look at the picture, please. This is a picture here. This is the bridge. You can see this is a bridge. I mean, it boggles the mind. And they have the infantry to also put pictures. And the other time I saw, as part of his COVID, what's it called? COVID relief, whatever. Where he has people washing, using buckets to wash hand and stuff like that. I mean, things that are not fit for the zoo. As in, no, I'm not zoo in derogatory way, but things you couldn't actually leave for the animals, that the animals that are in the zoo for them to use. But this is where, and this is what they celebrate for all the humongous amount of money that they get. I mean, this is absolutely insane. And that's why I left that picture on the lower hand here. So for every one of us to see, this is what we are up against. Now, you're thinking that, okay, you've only watched Elliot. Now, let's look at this lady again in the same manner, of speech. I don't want to dwell so much on Elliot's submission, because his own submission is very clear that basically calling out that the youth will have to do something. And honestly, I promise he's one anyway. He's one, but I promise you that the youth, those that he has spoken to, I believe that they are listening and that they will do the needful come 2023, because there must be a day of reckoning. There must be, this is not no longer voting. This is not no longer protest. This is going to be, there must be a strategic outcome for this whole carnage. Now let's get to the lady in question here.
Look at the children these days, the youths. I like your submission, Mr. Speaker, that it is not unemployment that should be the bane or the reason why youths will come out and begin to misbehave. Unemployment in so many countries of the world, even in the United States.
You see, they all make this silly, stupid mistake all the time. Silly, stupid mistake. Here she is, comfortably talking about unemployment in the UK. Here she is talking about the unemployment in America. That yes, you have unemployed people in America, but they don't destroy things. And you think, is she still clued on? In what world is she living in? We saw the aftermath of George Floyd's death and what followed afterward, the carnage. Why those destructions are condemnable by myself, they are unacceptable. But in what he's saying, he forgets that in the United Kingdom, there is what they call the job seekers allowance. As long as you're out of job, government pays you certain amount of money for you to keep body and soul together. In most cases, your house, your council tax is paid for by the government. Yet, when it comes to protest, the same people will come out and show their anger. But here you are, a woman, you're condemning the people that came out to protest. While I do not support those that destroy things, but hey, could they have done so if the government had any form of, protection for them? We have heard of, the youth, you'll be given 30,000 trader money. Is it trader money, 30,000 one-off? Or 30,000 every month? I said it here. I've said it on this channel multiple times. Let me actually change this, but I'll come back. I'll come back to her video. I've said it on this channel multiple times. The moment you know a nation that is not interested in developing and not interested in taking any futuristic action is when you see a nation that is uninterested in knowing and treating the downtrodden very right. That means the poorest of the poor within the society are not cared for. I've given an analogy before, and that analogy stays. Take, for instance, you want to know how good someone's house is. When you walk into that person's house, go to the toilet. You want to know how good an airport is, go to the toilet. And if you want to know a nation, how good a nation is, check out how that nation treats its own, the poorest of the poor. Here you are, the same people here in the Lagos State House of Assembly, Parliament, speaking, will be the same people when they want to contest an election. They will be the same people to go to the street and hire these street, quote unquote, what they call street urchins, or call them thugs, call them whatever name. You know, the nomenclature changes depending on event. If it's on protest, they might turn to urchins. If it's on election, they might turn to thugs, you know, or the other time they might turn to alaye boys or area boys or whatever that might be. Now, and you see them that when they win that election, what would they use these boys to do? They'll use them as tax collectors. Ask these people to install camera that every single car that goes here, automatically it takes money out of, if you have a sticker, if you don't have, then you get penalty. No, they won't, because that was the battle in Edo State, where you saw someone who was taking money away from those who basically use the old way of collecting money. You collect 10 million, you put them in your pocket and give state maybe 300, 200,000, and you pocket the other ones. And here you are talking about America, talking about the United Kingdom, that people don't destroy things. That in your country, that they destroy things. But you never ask yourself that most critical question, which is, why are they not doing same in America and in the United Kingdom?
Even in the United States. I schooled in the UK, and I saw a lot of young people who were not employed, but they didn't become hoodlums. Why can't we look inwards?
You see how they fail. You see how their brain works. See how she just failed. By this statement, she's failed in toto. She's failed. I've schooled in the United Kingdom. I lived in the United States. I have seen people who were unemployed, but they didn't destroy anything. Now, you made this statement forgetting that in the same United States and in the United Kingdom, if you do not have job, there are basic support system, there are support nets for you. Without defending anybody, let me ask you, madam, if you come to Lagos now, you see someone who has no job, what is the support system from Lagos State government or Anambra State government or Kano State government or the federal government? What is the support system? Zero. We saw what happened in Calabar. Calabar is the one that probably in my mind have defined social scientific logic, because I always had taken the people of Calabar as a reasonable people whenever I visit there, very civil and very courteous. But it boggles me and it beats me silly that the same people would suddenly go in because of copycat, the way the things were happening in other places, just go in, start. Not only that they looted Tinapa, they looted every single shop. You saw bales of clothes. When they broke into these places, they took these things to their homes. And I asked, I made a tweet. Some of you that follow me, some might tweet on Facebook, on Twitter, my post on Facebook, and I tweeted. I said, what bothers me most is, where are the parents? How can children come home with these stolen items and the parents do nothing? And that bothers me most, because it means that we have greater problem at hand than we can think of. It is very hard, and it will still be very hard for me to condemn anyone that went in and took the palliative. Sorry, I cannot get myself to the point of condemning it, because these people took what belongs to them, and they took something to feed themselves, cartons of Indomie. Sorry, it's government. I can't help, but I couldn't get myself to condemning it. But beyond that, even in that, and I ask myself, how could a government have left this thing so much that the people started helping themselves. Again, that is government to blame. But even in their doing this, I saw one with this kaya or whatever it's called, like big truck that they push, parking indomies, some stairs. I'm like, this is what I call. You see, that same person, he is not different from a politician. He is also a plutocrat. But the only thing is that he hasn't got the chance. Now, suddenly he has a chance. Rather than take 2 or 3 to go and, if you are genuinely hungry, but you now go and pack it, are you going to sell it? It just is, it's the same mind. But moving away from the palliative, now come back to the things that has happened. And I'm thinking, how on earth did we get to a point where children, I saw one, I think that's Lagos, they broke into a warehouse, taking gas cooker, tabletop gas cooker, twin gas cooker. And people are just walking home majestically, children. And I'm just asking myself, imagine myself as a father, I come back from work, and my son comes home with double cooker. And I come in, I asked my wife, was there any need for this? And he said, no, I didn't buy it. And I said, why did we get this? And my son tells me, I picked it from the, what's it called? Protest. I mean, let's not, before I'm censored of being violent, let me not think about what will happen next. Because that house, no go enter me and my son that day. But that's me. Now it boggles me that when I now sit back and think, why am I not seeing the same level of outrage from the parents? That is the only thing I condemn. I'm condemning it to tomorrow morning. I don't care. No matter what, that level of destruction was unnecessary. The things people stole. We saw a video of one stole air condition from ShopRite, went into the house and put the air condition in on top of the what's it called, wardrobe shelf. Everywhere is littered with wine, with shoes. Come on now, people now, this is wrong. And when this thing started, people were saying, oh yeah, the South was destroying itself. Yet the North didn't join the protest, but the North actually won the trophy. Sorry, but the North. Adamawa won trophy. 109 tractors. 109 tractors. The tractors weren't moving. They didn't have petrols on them. They weren't starting. But these tractors were pushed by human beings. Got to some point, these tractors were, decimated. Everything was taken. In Cross River, you saw they went to a school that has Meccano list. I think it's about 60 or 80 kVA. They went in within seconds. They stole the soul of that Meccano generator, diesel generator. And what was left thereafter was, the carcass. Again, people, no matter how you see it, that is criminal. That is criminality. You that engaged in that, you are no different than the same politicians we criticize. You that went to where people were taking palliatives and you took, truck load of palliatives, you are no different. Because any day you find yourself in the corridors of power, you are no different and you're going to do exactly the same. If I criticize and if I condemn politicians in the actions that they take, I must also condemn you and condemn this action because this action is unacceptable. What you have ended up doing is, when that's what has given people like this lady here in the Lagos State House of Assembly the impetus to talk and speak in this manner. Having said that, the government, again, the blame lies squarely on the doorstep of the federal of the government, because if the government did not start the Lekki shooting incident, There is no way the people would ever get to that point of looting. On that note, let me now continue with her submission.
And look for solutions to our problems. Why can't the young people look within themselves, look for their talents? What stops you from becoming a designer?
Now, see, these people are sometimes the way they talk, you just want to get you angry. What stops you from looking at even becoming a designer? What are the things you have laid down? Even now that people, because of COVID, people are losing their jobs. Government is offering what they call retraining programs. Before now, you are a secretary. That means you come into the office, you meet face to face, you are a receptionist. Your job is no longer needed as before the COVID. The government of serious nations will get you together and say, okay, what do you want to do? Can we retrain you to go into an area that probably you can work from home? There is no way as a receptionist you can work from home because people will come into a company, you have face-to-face and human interactions. And here you are blaming people. They could be graduates, they should have gone in and do fashion design. What are the things you have done and are expected you in this program for you to have said, oh, these are the things we could do and help? But again, you people fail as usual because that's what you people know how to do best. You keep failing. So let's quickly finish that.
Optional. What have you? And make a brand of it. There is no excuse for being a hoodlum. I think it is about time. I mentioned this on the floor of the House. Ab initio, we became members of the Ninth Assembly, that the National Orientation Agency needs to set to work. We need to begin to orientate our young people. They need people who can talk to them from time to time.
But I doubt if it's people like you with this level of mindset that you have. I doubt if you can make any impact, if you can speak to them with this level of mindset where you can tell them how people behave well in America. Then you forget that even the convoys that you use, your counterparts in America don't use those convoys. You forget that the type of things you enjoy, your counterparts in America don't. And your counterparts in America actually go back to their constituency office and ask them what they want. So sadly, I am doubting if you're going to be among those that could actually bring in those change that you...
Are high on drugs all the time.
Oh dear, look at it. See, that these youths are high on drugs all the time. Listen, if she's your rep, I believe you know what to do by 2023. How can you say that the youths are high on drugs all the time? When you want to use them, it doesn't bother you if they use drug or not. When if it's election time, it doesn't...
Drugs all the time, most of them. They go to social media, they do all sorts of things. I'm even scared to give my young children phones because I'm scared I don't know what they would see on the social media. It's that bad. We need to set the National Orientation Agency to work. The Nigerian National Population Commission. We need to have data. We need to have statistics of our citizens.
Now, we need to have data, we need to have statistics. It's part of the thing I said before. No nation is going to get it right. You know a serious nation by the data they are working to get. This government is 5 years on, not census that we are able to do, not the national ID card that you are able to drive to a logical conclusion. Tell me one thing you people have done to show that you are serious in planning. I said it here before. There is no reason why INEC cannot do continuous exercise of voters registration. That is actually madness. There is no single reason why you cannot just walk in the way if you lose your ATM card, you should be able to go in with your BVN, with your ID card, you should get another card instant. I mean, all the cards I have is in there. All my Visa card is just working. I think it was only a Visa card that I had to come back 1 week later to. But all the MasterCard, I think you walk in there, stick it in a machine, your name is printed there, your data is transferred. Now tell me, if we are a serious nation, why can't we even outsource the PVC production to the banks? That's going to save us at least 80% of the production cost. Because if that PVC is linked, that before you get a PVC, it must be linked to a BVN, voila. But it shows you that the government is not interested, because all of them, they are leaving a loophole for them to rig the next election. Tell me the reason why it will be difficult for you, just as a Nigerian. You have your national ID card, you walk into a bank, you have a BVN that means it can only be linked to one person. You come in there, okay, sit down. I mean, let the banks, we create job. Move this thing to the banks. Let the banks be the ones to issue this. Just employ one person or two person per in a bank. The bank already has the infrastructure. They're going to use the network, the internet's there. The internet is already there. It's not going to add anything to the infrastructure. The printer is already there. The banks have printers. I mean, what is it that is not there? Maybe one or two, maybe if you have a special printer for printing the cards, yes. But the banks, check about this. The bank have the internet connection 24/7 to run the operations. And when someone registers for a new PVC, puts the fingerprint, at least you have something to cross-check within the database if there is a fingerprint match. There and then, if someone comes in, if Maazi Ezeoke comes in and says, oh, I want to register for a new PVC, okay, my name, date of birth, blah, blah, blah. If you don't catch me by date of birth, because probably I used a different date of birth, the moment it gets to fingerprinting, boom, it says, Maazi Ezeoke, this is your date of birth. Before you told us you were born in March, now suddenly you told us you were born in April. Because your freaking fingerprint. And these things are that simple. The challenge is that we do not have people who genuinely want to make these changes. All we have is just people just talking about these changes. Yet, they are the ones that have the power to push for these changes to happen.
Of our citizens. We need to know who is what and where. We need to be able to identify our people. And Mr. Speaker, this is my humble submission in conjunction with what Honorable Rotimi Olowo has said, that a committee be set up to look into this carnage. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Okay, so you've basically listened to her, and again, I can't say that enough. That when I listen to her, I'm like, okay, people, I don't know how we got here, but hey, here we are. Now, in conclusion here, for those of you that might want to call, if you wish to, fine, you can. But if not, for the conclusion here, let me quickly play us what I think is a very, instructive way to deal with this. Now, let me quickly play this for us.
Listen up, Nigerian youth. This is for anyone between 15 and 40 in Nigeria. Make sure every Nigerian youth between 15 and 40 sees this video. I'm going to tell you two things that if you do them, you will win this battle. If you don't, forget it. Listen very carefully. Now, in 1999, a woman got married and she didn't have a baby for almost 2 decades. Eventually, she took in and something was in her stomach. Now, when she went to the hospital, incidentally, she delivered not a baby, but a fibroid. So you see, a movement without strategy is like a pregnancy without a baby. A movement without strategy is like a pregnancy that produced a fibroid. That's what we witnessed in the past 2-3 weeks. Now, Pharaoh of Egypt, the ancient monarch, had a dream. What does that have to do with the ENDSars protest and everything going on in Nigeria? A lot. Because there are two types of youth in Nigeria, as the past 2 weeks have demonstrated. So Pharaoh had a dream. He saw two types of cows. The first cow was scrawny, you know, looking diseased, and then you could see the skeletons, you know, of the cows. Very, very scrawny, like broomsticks. Then he saw another set of 7 cows, fat, well-fed, you know, plump, you know, horrible cows. But guess what? It was a scrawny cows that swallowed and ate up the fat cows. And after they swallowed and ate up the fat cows, they still remained like that. It's as if they hadn't even eaten anything. What does this mean? There are two kinds of Nigerian youth, as we've seen in the past 2 or 3 weeks. The first Nigerian youth, which I will call Youth 1, were the ones who started the ENDSars protest. They organized that protest with class, so much so that everybody in the world was saying, I am proud of the Nigerian youth. They didn't destroy any car. They didn't destroy anybody's thing. They raised money for people in need. There was a young woman who had prosthetic legs or whose legs were cut off. They raised millions of naira on the spot for her. There was a woman, you know, by the roadside who sold groundnuts or something like that. They raised more than 2 million naira on the spot by themselves. Somebody's car was broken. They raised money on the spot and did it. They were very peaceful. They were classy. They were, you know, they organized entertainment. They organized food. They organized money. In fact, it baffled and terrified the government. So that is Youth 1. And I'll call the Youth 1 builders. That's the name for their persona. They are builders. But there's Youth 2 in Nigeria. And these Youth 2 are the ones, you know, who took over after the Lekki toll gate shooting. They're the ones who are going around burning everything on their way, burning malls, destroying businesses that people borrowed money to buy, to build. They're the ones, you know, attacking police stations and then taking guns, taking ammo from the armory. They're the ones, you know, going to Thomas Estate to wage war with ordinary citizens who are also suffering like themselves. They're the ones that were recruited by security agencies, according to many video clips that we saw, to attack Youth 1. So now, this is where it gets interesting. Just like Pharaoh's cows, the builders, that is Youth 1, came, built such an asset of goodwill, built such an asset of intellectual, you know, prowess. And then the Youth 2, just like Pharaoh's scrawny cows, came, swallowed up everything that Youth 1 had done. So the scrawny cows, which is Youth 2, ate up and swallowed the builders, which is Youth 1. This Youth 2, I would call the burners. They're the ones burning down everything. They've burned down public property. They've burned down the NPA. They've burnt down police stations. They've burned down all kinds of places. Now, it turns out, Youth 1, therefore, that your greatest enemy, your greatest challenge is not the government. Your greatest challenge is Youth 2. These guys, you know, who are going around and burning everything. And therefore, here are two things you must do. The two strategies. Number one, if you are to win this war, you must reach out to Youth 2. You must reach out to these burners. You see, because they are very accessible to the government. Whatever you build, these politicians would use them to destroy. It's been happening. That's an ancient strategy. They keep doing that. In the north, they will use religion. All they need to do is tell somebody, oh, somebody tore the Quran or somebody urinated in front of the mosque. By the time the wake of the crisis, after the wake of the crisis, thousands of people have been slaughtered by this same Youth 2. In the south, they will play up ethnic sentiments. Before you know it now, they will say, they will make it Yoruba versus Igbo fight, and then people will now slaughtering themselves in Lagos. So reach out to this Youth 2. In the north, use reverse psychology. There's a way, you know, to work on the crowd mind, on the mind of the crowd. Reach out to them before the government reaches out to them, and let them know that All these people who are recruiting them to burn down everything, that their children are not here. Their children are not among them, among the people burning these things. All their children are somewhere in Saudi Arabia or in Europe or in America, somewhere, you know, very, very safe. So every burning that they are doing, they are burning. We're actually burning ourselves. And then the burning needs to stop today. The burning needs to stop right now. The second part of the strategy, Youth One, is to realize the source of the problem. The real monster in Nigeria predates the birth of your father and even your grandfather. It started right from the 1930s with the invasion from the north of Ottoman Dan Fodio. And then later that same century with the invasion of southern Nigeria by the British Empire, the then British Empire. And then that marriage of the British and the Caliphate gave rise. There's a lot of culmination to what became 1914 and to what eventually became the 1999 Constitution. And in that 1999 Constitution, all the problems that you're seeing in Nigeria are enshrined. It's amazing. A constitutional lawyer once showed me, and I was shocked. The corruption is in that document.
I agree.
The lack of infrastructure is in that document.
I agree.
You cannot develop. You cannot even, like they have these exclusive items. If you want to build, let's say, a railway, you can't because it's in the exclusive document. It's that same document that sequestered all your property, all the land in the country, and put it in the hands of few people that they call, you know, the government. They are the ones who will give you CFO for your property. They are the ones who own everything under the ground behind your house, like you've seen in the Niger Delta and all that. So the problem is the 1999 Constitution. If we take it down, we will now have a chance as a country to define what we want, and then for each region to define the pace of their progress. Peace is more important. Justice is more important.
Now, from what he has said, I couldn't agree more. I would conclude with the following. I mean, obviously, the government knew that the 5 points was not only where it would end. The 5 points were only the beginning, to the point that the people would start talking about a referendum to actually decide how they want to be governed. But sadly, the government used what he classified as Youth 2 to scuttle the whole process. Now, it is about re-strategy here. People, we have to re-strategize. Let us not for 1 second get angry at the Youth 2. The Youth 2 have acted within their understanding, what their brain capacity could carry. They couldn't go beyond what they don't know. The Youth 1 has done what they know best to do because they are builders. Yes, we know people in this country when that, they barely move to a place and they don't even live 5 to 10 years before building their own place of, their own place of abode. Hold on, I have a caller now, and I'll take this call, so I bring it to an end. So, hello, caller, where are you calling from? Good evening. Okay, Uchenna. Okay. How are you today, sir?
I'm fine. It's really good seeing you.
Yes, thank you very much.
For a while. Really, as I say, I totally agree with Mr. Bra that just spoke now. It's really the issue. And talking about this protest and looting that went on around the country. Our politicians are trying to blame the youth, and like I said, they're on a blaming game, trying to justify one or the other. First was the information minister trying to find technique or system that can regulate social media, whereby it seems like they don't know what they are talking about. They say A and do B, whereby they use social media doing campaigning and they use it to do all kinds of things.
Mm-hmm.
And imagine an old person telling kids, how to operate. Social media, of course, there is bad in it, but the good is far more than the bad. And also the young people, because I can't understand them calling them kids. Somebody that is over 17 in Europe is not called kids. People. And it seems like they don't respect us, but during voting, that's when they will need young people do one thing or the other just to get their vote. Whereby after voting, back to business. It will be promising heaven and hell, and at the end, nothing happened. And really, it's really disheartening hearing what Desmond Elliot and that woman in Lagos House of Assembly was saying. It seems like they don't know what they're talking about.
He has, in fairness to him, he has tendered his apology, saying that he was taken out of context. And the reason why I played the video is I always want to understand what someone says before you come up with the argument that you've been quoted out of context. But I don't think there is any context here to quote him out of. His statement was very loud and clear, and that is what he meant. So, but I can understand when someone, sobers up, comes down from his high horse and want to apologize. So obviously, it is left for his constituents to either forgive him or do the needful by 2023.
Exactly. Because why he came out, I watched both videos. Why he came out to, I don't think that was apology. He tried to find one or the other to say one or two things. Because he saw from social media how people was treated.
Yeah, it was the backlash was unbelievable. There is no
it was unbelievable.
Yeah.
So he was trying to do damage control. That's the only thing he did. Nothing else. Nothing else. And seeing his consistency project he did, I think not to persuade you. The signboards he put, it might be even higher in cost than the.
You see, I think because honestly, I think because the people, I blame the people here. The people have accepted this level of madness for too long. That's why you will see such level of insult that somebody will come up and put up such a bridge that he doesn't use. I mean, he will never use. And I keep saying it. Our political class are so heartless and wicked because when you look at the palliatives that they locked up, waiting to be shared on their birthdays, then you ask yourself, these are palliatives that they probably wouldn't even use. Now, some people argue that these palliatives could be for 2023. It doesn't matter if they were out of date. They could actually repackage them, or maybe they will use them as a Christmas gift or whatever. I don't know. Now, the question is, like the governor of Adamawa State that said he put up an executive order for people to go on house-to-house search for, to look for stuff. Then I asked myself and I tweeted and said, if Fintiri, who is the governor of Adamawa State, could make such claim, now what has he been waiting for? Why hasn't he put up an executive order to look into those that obviously stored those palliatives? Sometimes the government, I think that's where you and I, the people, must be angry enough. Because I think they take the people for granted. They take the people as idiots.
Of course. Because all this, they all try to blame one person or the other, but nobody asking the correct question. Why? Because I listened to to some of them talking, some governors, they were about to deliver, but whoa, COVID-19 had been on in Nigeria for.
They were about to deliver. Yeah. You saw the one in Lagos. You saw the one in Jos. You saw again. I say I condemn every single act of vandalism. But what I will never get myself to condemning is those who have gone in to take what belongs to them. These were the gifts given to them. Now, you see, the funny thing is, the same governments in states that will now go to those areas, those hinterlands, to go and look for the looted palliatives. They could have used the same energy ab initio to go and deliver those palliatives. Then, if they had delivered the palliatives, I mean, the people will go to the warehouses, break the warehouses will be empty.
They were totally empty.
That's it. It would have stopped.
Yeah. Because from the evidence we are seeing, I think the plan wasn't there to deliver this. They are just using it for one thing or the other. They know best what they wanted to use it for.
Anyway.
But, like the one wanted to use it for if this will happen in Western world, that person will be arrested. But in Nigeria, oh come on.
No, even the way it was said as if okay, my property has been looted. You need to have sympathy for me. I said sympathy, Bogidia.
Yeah,
it just
sympathy for those who lost their property, lost their livelihoods.
Like I said, and I repeat again, it was madness. You know, I saw senators' houses being broken into and burned. Come on now, I mean,
people got killed.
And you know, those ones I would never ever condone such madness. The destruction of properties and the destructions of those business plazas. I mean, these are things that would hurt Nigerians in the long run because it will reduce, direct foreign direct investments where people will now have to, because it will increase our risks as a nation. That when someone does the risk analysis, they say, well, this is a nation that when you open up a shop, if there is any protest, you risk losing these items in here. And what it does is your insurance premium goes up, because if anything happens, sadly, that's it. If before insurance can insure your shop for 500,000, I believe you. After this, if these shopping malls are repaired, there is no way the insurance premium wouldn't get up to 800, 900, or not even 1 million. I mean, these are things, these are consequences that we have to know that obviously has to come up with. Thank you very much for your call, Uche. Okay, stay blessed, yeah? Thank you. So like I said, like I was saying before the call came in, so what the strategy has to be is there must be a sustained action, and this action has to be, like I said before, the diaspora and those of our brothers and sisters in the diaspora has to help, where the action has to be sustained, and to the point where, and I think the government saw this coming, the demand to end the 1999 Constitution. But I must say this in conclusion: there is something that happened that I think is a missed opportunity. And it tells me that this current government is not serious in providing leadership and in providing governance. And it's very simple. Here you had a protest that happened. You had the opportunity to actually do something. Now, I told someone, if I were to be Mr. President, what could I have done? Listen, because you've been considered to have failed the people who gave you votes in the last 5 years. You have only 3 years to go, Mr. President. The ENDSars provided a very good opportunity for you to have dusted your anti-corruption and your reformist agenda. Use the opportunity to climb on the back of the protesters and do these things that ordinarily you wouldn't have done because you will have the support. It will be yourself and the politicians, not politicians, but the politicians, the looters, the cankerworms, the scavengers in the corridors of power. But obviously, the way he kept silent, and you saw in Abuja, DSS or SSS or whatever, using their vehicles to convey people to go and destroy properties and attack people. I mean, and that's actually how it started. Eventually, the mother of all, the Lekki incident happened, and hell broke loose. And I think no matter whatever we do, what is going to happen is that the 1999 Constitution remains something that has to, go down before you can see any meaningful project. Like I keep saying, you have a constitution that has exclusive lists that, if the southeast or the southwest want to do their rail, they couldn't do it because it's on the exclusive list. I mean, it's absolute madness. But again, having said that, I believe that our people are also not, entirely, the political class are not entirely interested in finding solution, because if not, they could do one or two things or even go to court and challenge it. Because as I keep saying it, there is no reason why states shouldn't pick up, do their, if in the, I use my southeast as an example. There is no reason why the southeast cannot build rail on their own from Onitsha to Oka, and stopping at Amansi, and Amansi, Enugu picks up from there, and you have your interchange there, picks up. So you've done your state rail, it's state rail, then it goes on and on and on. But again, we have a bunch of leaders who are incapable of thinking big, where we can say that I want to build XYZ that is going to be the highest in the world. I want to see, and that's obviously myself included. We need to step up the game. I watched a video of Erufai the other time saying that no matter however comfortable you are, many of us are comfortable in the things we do. I mean, in our various professional fields, we are comfortable. We have our families, we are comfortable in what we do. But beyond that, it appears that we can probably sit on the on the sideline and talk unless we are ready to go get ourselves, our hands dirty and get involved in cleaning the mess. On that note, I will say thank you very much for joining me this evening. I remain your and only Maazi Ezeoke. On that note, I will say have a wonderful evening. Please, tomorrow, myself and Dele Mamudu, we will be having a Yoruba Igbo conversation with the Iba Onakakanfo, that is Iba Ganio Adam, the Onakakanfo of Yoruba land, with Onyeko Nwenu Party, Professor Party Tumi. Again, what we intend to achieve by that conversation tomorrow. It's going to be a Zoom conference, but it will be streamed here live. So 4 o'clock Nigerian time on this channel, please tune in. It will be streamed live here. I will be co-moderating with Dele Momodu. So the whole point is to see how we can, because there is a narrative, and a dangerous one at that the government has started introducing, trying to make the ENDSars conversation or ENDSars movement, or trying to bring in ethnic division and dimension to it. And that we must resist with everything we have. On that note, I will say join me tomorrow, 4 o'clock Nigerian time, 3 o'clock United Kingdom time. So we will have this conversation. I promise it's going to be a very fantastic one, as as we do have. For many of you who haven't seen the conversation before, go back to this channel. If you want, I can put it on the description. My conversation with the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, that is Maazi Kanu, and where he was, obviously in his words misquoted, and he apologized for the comments that was made regarding the issues of Yoruba, banning Yoruba properties and attacking their leaders. Obviously, that has been cleared. So go back to this channel, you will see that as well. So what we will keep doing and even doing more on the background is to make sure that we have peace. Peace is what we, in as even if we're going to decide to be together or to separate our own, to go our own different ways, no matter however we want to do it, we would have peace. Peace is what we deserve. Many of you saw how, honestly, at some point, you can see when property started going up in flames in the last week. Whoa, at some point, no one could predict whose property is going to go up in flame next. And thank God for so many of you who worked with us at the background to speak to so many stakeholders across the length and breadth of this nation. And thank God, normalcy has returned to the system. Yes, normalcy has returned, but that doesn't mean we will stop talking. No, we will go back to the status quo, demanding the way and the things we've been demanding before. We deserve and we demand to be governed better. We deserve and we still demand that we go back to regional governance. Let every region develop at their own pace. If you want to be a Oduduwa Republic, that within this southwestern region, okay, again, if we have one common currency or if we have one army, but let us have a regional government the way it was in 1963, and that is what I sincerely believe that is going to help us to come out of this quagmire. And in doing that, that means at some point the people have to come together and to have a referendum to decide how they want to be governed. Other nations are doing it. Why can't we do it? On that note, I will say thank you very much for joining me this evening. I'm signing off. I'm Maazi Ezeoke. Peace out. Thank you very much.